Okay, so I thought it'd be really fun to just kind of condense my thoughts, as I like to do, into a video talking about the top 5 bosses from each Fromsoft's games, from Demon Souls onward. So basically I took my 5 favorite bosses from each game and I put them on here. I went ahead and already organized them. So Flame Lurker to Penetrator. So Flame Lurker is my favorite Demon Souls boss. Penetrator is my least favorite of the 5 here. I want to note that so Margit is on here. Since Morgott is too similar to Margit, I decided to leave him out. But I do think Morgott is better than Radagon and Elden Beast. But while I'm at it, I will say Radagon is here. I'm not counting Elden Beast. Elden Beast is not. I'm not accounting for Elden Beast. This is just Radagon. Otherwise, I would replace him with Morgott. Some other notes. So Owl Father. There are some things about Great Shinobi Owl that I do enjoy more than Owl Father. And that's the music. The music I enjoy much better in Great Shinobi Owl. But they're both the same character, so I decided to take Owl instead, since I do enjoy his boss fight overall much more. There were a lot of bosses from Sekiro that I wanted to take in. This list, the person that made the list included the inner versions of the boss fights, so it's kind of hard to pick. I don't have much experience with them, so I just went with what's familiar to me. I really want to bring in Ishii and Ashina, the one you get fight in the Shura ending, but I can only pick 5, so that's how it's gonna be. Also, S+ tier is the best of the. Okay, so C tier does not mean the boss is like average. It means that in comparison to the S tiers. So say obviously everyone's favorite boss is, okay, Gale. If he's an S tier, then a boss like Gwyn is not going to also be S tier. I like Gwyn as a boss. I think he's a good boss. I think he's a great boss. So just because I place him in B does not mean he's like awful. Or just because I place him in even C maybe, that doesn't mean he's awful. It's all relative to the S tier. So I just want to get that out of the way. That's how it is. If a boss is in C tier here, that does not mean they're garbage tier. This is just a format that's really convenient for me. So yeah, a boss that's in C tier does not mean that they're overall average. It means that in comparison to the best of the best, yeah, they can be average. But I'm assuming that not a lot of these bosses are gonna make the C tier. And since these are some of my favorite bosses, a lot of them are gonna be in like S+, or A. So yeah, just want to get that out of the way. So starting with Flame Lurker. I think Flame Lurker is a great. I feel like it's the earliest boss you can encounter that is like a real duel that's really engaging. It's like a back and forth. He looks really cool. The way he enters the arena is like so intimidating. I love intimidation factor is a huge thing for me in boss fights. And Flameless Lurker. Flame Lurker is very intimidating. I love his design. I will say, Demon Souls, I don't remember much about it. I played it when I was like 13 or 14. That was like damn near 10 years ago. Like, I don't remember everything about this game. So I'll try my best to be like unbiased, but I could be extremely wrong here. You're gonna see Vanguard Demon here. I'll explain that. Old King Alan. Not as good as Flame Lurker, but also an A tier. Everything I say about Flame Lurker can apply to him, but his boss fight feels a lot more fair in comparison to Flame Lurker, because Flame Lurker, his explosions can sometimes get in the way of like, it's like, oh, what is he doing? With Old King Alan, he just has a sword. He telegraphs. His one-shot attack is telegraphed extremely well. You just like run away from it. He has a really cool mechanic where you can take your level away, which I think is a really cool mechanic that they've never done ever again for some reason. Yeah, Old King Alan, really cool boss fight. Tower Knight, within the realm of Demon Souls bosses, he is one of the best bosses. Overall, I would say he's a C tier, because the only novelty he has going for him is killing the archers all around the arena, and then going straight for his ankles, and rinsing and repeating. He's up here because he's the top 5 Demon Souls boss. That's really the only reason he's up here. I don't find him particularly engaging to fight, but I do think he's a very cool gimmick boss. You know, the first time you see him, it's really cool. Vanguard Demon. I think he's a really cool tutorial boss. I like the fact that if you beat him, you get like access to like usable items that are like really good, like full moon grasses and stuff. And I think you even get like a new moon grass, which makes it really satisfying to beat him. It's not a Genichiro situation where like you beat him and that's all you get. With the Vanguard Demon, you beat him and you're given grasses for it. You don't get just the satisfaction of beating him. You also get rewarded for it, which is really nice. Penetrator. The reason he's below Vanguard Demon is because every time I fought him, which is only like 3 or 4 times, was with the help of Bjor, or whatever his name is. which kind of trivialized the fight. But I'd imagine if I fought him by myself, I would enjoy him just as much as the old King Alon in Flamebreaker. Because I think he looks pretty cool. He's just a knight in armor, but that's kind of like I'm biased towards that. I love that shit. Calamite, S tier. My favorite boss in Dark Souls 1. I think he's the best dragon boss so far in the series. The reason he's not an S+ tier, I don't like the way he has some claw swipes where sometimes if you're dodging to your left or your right, depending on which way the attack is coming to you, and you're too close to his body, his claws can actually collide with your character and carry you. And even though you rolled at the right time, because you're getting carried by his attack, you'll recover before the active frames of his attack animation are over. So basically, he'll carry you into a hit if you're too close to him, which in my experience. I haven't tested it out with light armor or light roll, but it is an issue for me with medium roll, and that's the only thing keeping him from S+ tier. He's a really solid boss, and one of my favorite bosses in Fromsoft 3. Manus. I had him okay, well, this is like bullshit, apparently, because I kind of have a special relationship with Manus. I remember fighting him with my medium roll character and thinking he was bullshit because I was only trying to medium roll. But I think FromSoft, what they were trying to convey with Manus is, with light roll, you can get away with just rolling. With heavy roll, or heavy armor, and like assuming you're fat rolling, you better have a fucking good shield with you because you're already wearing heavy armor. With medium roll, I think FromSoft was trying to say, it's like, you need to mix up blocking and dodging, and I was trying to just dodge. So Manus gave me like some kind of like epiphany. I was just like, holy shit, this guy wants me to block and or like dodge and block, because I was dodging a lot of his attacks really well, but my recovery frames, like the time it was taking me, he was hitting me during my recovery frames. So I was just like, what the fuck. But yeah, Manus, tough love. It's tough love with Manus, and I love him for that. Artorias is an A tier. He's above these two. I think Artorias is kind of overhyped, but that doesn't mean he's a bad fight. I think he's still a great fight. He's fun and he's engaging, and I like his mechanic of him powering up. It's really cool. I think it's the first time they've done that in their games. I have no real like flaw with the boss fight. It's just something about it that didn't keep me as engaged as... I know he was the hype of the DLC. He was even like on the cover of the Prepare to Die edition for PC. But something about him, I just cannot fully enjoy the fight the same way other people did. Gwyn is also A tier. I like the fact that you can parry him. That's a really cool detail. And a lot of people say it trivializes the fight, but I found that if you fight him like straight on, like either dodging or blocking, he can actually be a pretty good challenge. He's just about as engaging as Artorias, to be honest. That's really all I have to say about him. Also, the music. I know it's like a meme to say, it's like, but I genuinely like, ever since I played Dark Souls 1, which is like, oh man, not long after it released. Well, like maybe like a year after it released or something, like maybe 6 months or so. When I first heard that music walking into the boss room, I was just like, holy shit, this is like nothing like the other bosses. Very impactful stuff. Bell Gargoyles, also up there. The reason I chose this boss over Ornstein and Smoth is because I feel like they're both gang fights, but I feel like the Bell Gargoyles are way more fair. The second gargoyle that comes down is half health, has less health than... So his HP already gets cut in half from the moment he lands. But his overall health pool also seems to be much less than the first gargoyle. And he seems to mainly do ranged attacks. So I think Bell Gargoyle, it's a really good fight. Especially if it's that early in the game. I've seen a lot of people say it's a DPS check, and to some extent, it's kind of true. But I've gone in there with an upgraded weapon before, and it's just like, the first gargoyle isn't too bad. You should be able to kill it before the second one even lands, or it should be close to dead. I don't think it's totally unfair. In my opinion, it's not unfair at all. Okay, Dark Souls 2 time. Sin, the music, amazing. The aesthetic of the arena, I love it. It looks like I was about to say moldy. I don't know. The word you described for like the entire Sunken King, the algae and stuff, like, it's not mold. It's not, I was about to say moldy. It's not mold. But it strikes my fancy, I should say. It's really nice. His moveset, I feel like generally, the only thing keeping him from S+ tier is like, it sucks because both of these dragon fights, they have like one thing keeping them from S+ tier. And with Sin, I feel like his dive attack, where he dives at you from after flying around, is kind of wonky to dodge. It's dodgeable, but at the same time, it feels weird to dodge it. I don't know. It's weird. So S tier. Dark Liquor. probably the best game boss in Dark Souls 2. I like how the first phase is slow but punishing if whatever it is manages to hit you. And the boss is slow enough to the point where when it does summon two of them, the boss is so slow that having both of them fight you feels like just like a normal boss fight. I thought that was really cool. And also, if you hit both of them at the same time, you essentially do double damage, which is a really cool mechanic. I'd like to see more of that in like gank bosses from the Souls series, or just Fromsoft in general. But yeah, Dark Liquor, one of my favorite bosses in Dark Souls 2. One of the best gank bosses that Fromsoft has done. Fume Knight. I'm actually surprised. Dark Souls 2 has more S tiers than Dark Souls 1. Actually, no. I can't even say this. I think Fume Knight is around here, actually. Fume Knight is a boss that beat my ass into the fucking ground. For, like, I think he beat me like for like an hour straight, and I enjoyed every second of it. I like how his attacks are so clearly telegraphed, and yet I was getting my ass beat. It was so weird, like, because he has a straight sword for his fast attacks and his big sword for his heavy or slow attacks. And even when they gave me that, like, they're like, hey, look, here, you know, this is his slow attack and this is his fast attack, I was still getting fucked in my ass. Like, I was still getting destroyed. Yeah, I think that says a lot about Fume Knight. In that, his attacks are completely fair. It's just, I suck at the game. But learning how to fight him was extremely fun, which is something I really value when it comes to boss fights, is learning the boss fun to do. Is remembering the timings fun to do. And in the case of Fume Knight, it was very fun. Sir Alan. I'm gonna put him above Fume Knight because I like his lore more. Lore more. That sounds so stupid. I think his lore is better than Fume Knight. His arena is way cooler. His soundtrack, I like his soundtrack way more. I think Sir Alan, honestly, in my opinion, he's just like better Fume Knight. The only thing is, the hitbox of his grab is kind of fucked up. Maybe not the hitbox itself, but the way it'll, if you dodge at the wrong time, it'll like magnetize you like every other grab in the game. It just, even if the hitbox is accurate, it still looks wrong. But yeah, that's the only thing. If it wasn't for that grab attack, I think Sir Alan would be S tier. Bellstock. Bellstock is, I think he's the first like truly engaging boss in the base game of Dark Souls 2. It's like a constant back and forth. It's really cool because he has these really like heavy, like super committed attacks, and they are somewhat easy to dodge, but if you get hit by him, he takes off like half your health or maybe even more. And that's why I love him. He's punishing, but he's slow. And I've always liked those kind of like bosses, like the boss that moves slow but like hits super hard. Very fun boss to fight. But the run up to him is pretty garbage. And outside of those things I mentioned, he's just like, at this point in time, that kind of fight is just like 1 in a million, you know? In Dark Souls 2, he feels special. But among all of these bosses, not so much. Oh man, okay. Ludwig. This one's so easy. So as of right now, he's the best boss. As of right now, for the boss I've talked about so far, he is the best. So Ludwig in every category absolutely demolishes it. Like, it's like 11 out of 10 in every category. Like, the difficulty is perfect. It's not too much. You know, you can still enjoy the spectacle of the fight, but if you get carried away, he'll fuck you up. He'll destroy you. The first time I went to Old Hunters was in New Game Plus, because I'm stupid. And Ludwig made me take a break from the game. I had to take like a month break. He killed me 30 times, and I was like, I got upset, and I was just like, I gotta take a break from this game. I came back like a month later and beat his ass. But just the fact that he did that, I love him for that. He made a super good impression on me. And I'm not one of those people that are like, if the boss is difficult, it's good. I should say that, like, just because the boss is difficult does not make it good. But in this case, it helped me appreciate the fight a bit more. Because I've seen how fast you can kill Ludwig now, especially on the first New Game. So fighting him on New Game Plus was really helped me appreciate how good of a boss he was. Because I think on your first playthrough, it is, if you have a decent weapon, you can kill him pretty fast, and it'll kind of, the experience won't stick if you kill him that fast. But to me, Ludwig is a solid S+ tier. As far as I'm concerned, he's a perfect 10 out of 10 boss. And it's what, like, every boss, he's like the gold standard for like a 10 out of 10 boss fight. Gehrman, another S+ tier for Bloodborne. Gehrman is probably the most emotional boss fight in all of Fromsoft history. I think, like, I remember fighting him. I think this is my second playthrough because I finally got to like take a look at the lore and stuff. And when those like vocals come in during his soundtrack, the male vocals, that shit made me tear up. And he took advantage of me and fucking killed me. So yeah, I love Gehrman. Outside of that, he's a really fun boss. Like, it's like fighting him, like dodging, countering, and all this stuff. It's like a fucking dance. It feels so engaging. And that's a word I'm going to be using a lot to describe these bosses. But that's really the best way to just describe them, because that's my favorite kind of bosses. Like these engaging boss fights that test your mechanical skill, but also like give you time to appreciate their movesets. Orphan. This is another S+ tier. Bloodborne is far from my favorite FromSoft game, and far from my favorite game of all time. But yeah, Bloodborne's like peaks are really high. So what I like about Orphan is how relentless he is. He just keeps going at you. It's weird. He's relentless, but at the same time, you have time to heal if you need to. You know, it's weird. But it's like it's like after you finish healing, or after you finish like attacking him back, you gotta stay on your fucking toes, like, because he's gonna like hit you back. And the way the soundtrack builds up to his second phase soundtrack is beautiful. And when the instruments just like, or orchestra, whatever the fucking term is, when it just like completely like just drops, it goes so hard. It's like just goosebumps all the way, or chills, or whatever the fuck they're called. It's great. In my opinion, there's nothing to hate about Orphan Cause. I've had some frustration fighting him because I would get one shot by him because he would hit me in the middle of a dodge, but that's my fault. As frustrating as it was my fault. And overall, he's very fun to fight. Father Gascoigne. I think he's better than these three. The reason I like Gascoigne so much is because he's probably the best tutorial boss that FromSoft has ever done. And I say tutorial as in he's potentially the first boss you can fight. The first enemy to like truly test like what you learned so far. And I think Gascoigne does an amazing job of all this. And then his soundtrack just goes really hard. His opening cutscene is so fucking dope. And I don't know, I love Gascoigne. Not much to say about him, unless I want to say the word engaging again for like the 150th time. He's a really fun boss. Bloodstarved Beast is a surprising one. I could have put Lady Maria over him, but I honestly don't have that many good memories of fighting Lady Maria. The first time I fought her, I got by just by R1 spamming her, so I don't know, it's hard for me to say like she's better than Bloodstarved Beast, because I like Bloodstarved Beast. The first time I fought him, that wasn't cutting it. He was fucking me over in like 2 hits and all that stuff. So I think overall I would put him in top of B tier. I mean, now that I played through Bloodborne so many times, he's not really anything special, but the first impression, he fucked me over. He was the first roadblock, because before Bloodstarved Beast, I beat Gascoigne on my first try and Cleric Beast on my first try. And I think I also did Amelia on my first try. No, Amelia's after Bloodstarved Beast. But yeah, basically, I didn't have much trouble with Bloodborne before Bloodstarved Beast. And when I finally got him, he was like a roadblock. I died to him like at least 30 times. And my friend tried helping me, and I just kept on dying. I was like, fuck. I was dying before my friend could even like do anything to the boss. I was like, fuck. So I sat there, I learned his moveset and all that. You know, it's like it always is. It's just so satisfying to learn how to fight him. The only move I would say is bullshit is his grab move, which is, of course, his grab move is the one that one-shots you. But Outside of that, he's a very fun boss to fight, especially once you get into the flow of the fight. It's like a constant back and forth, with very solid openings to deal damage on him. Okay, so Dark Souls 3. So right now, Bloodborne is the king. Let's see what Dark Souls 3 brings. Gale is one of my favorite bosses of all time. The soundtrack, the build up to his fight. Gale is a character who's been in the... So he was added into the game along with the Ashes of Ariandel DLC. So Fromsoft had plenty of time to build him up. You didn't know he was going to be a boss fight, but even just to build him up as a character, they had plenty of time. And it works beautifully in his boss fight. Especially knowing his ambitions or like motivations behind like doing what he did and why he is the way he is when he fights you. That aside, his boss fight, okay, first phase, nothing really special. He kind of fights like a Bloodborne like beast enemy. Second phase, he gets up, fights like a human, and he starts throwing miracles out at you. And he gets the fucking ability to fucking teleport behind you. It's so fucking cool. And then it gets even cooler. Third phase, the music syncs up to him exploding, and I think that's so fucking cool. He also has one of the coolest attacks in like of any boss ever. Like it's like a double somersault into like a shooting his crossbow, and then landing with his sword in the ground. Every time I see that attack, it's hard for me to even focus because I get like teary-eyed, not from like sadness, but like it's just like so fucking cool. I get teary-eyed and it's like, how do they expect me to fight this guy when I can't even like see what's happening? If I could use the word epic, Gale is the most. He's very epic. As insulting or as ironic as I sound right now, or sarcastic as I sound, Gale is he's an epic boss fight. He's also the end to the Dark Souls series, which I cannot think of a better way to end it, honestly. A completely original boss, just fighting for the Dark Soul that he has to start a new world. It's just amazing. And yeah. So, Pontiff. I have a special relationship with Pontiff. The first time I fought him, he was the first roadblock for me in my first Dark Souls 3 playthrough. Every other boss I beat on my first try. But then I got to Pontiff, and he fucks me over at least 20 times. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening to me? Why is this happening now? So he ended my streak, and I was so upset. But not in a bad way, because I found him extremely fun to fight. It's just he was fucking me over, so like it was the first time feeling that in Dark Souls 3. I was just like, whoa, is this like guy actually gonna like do me in like this? And he did feel impossible. He was so aggressive, he had long combos. But the thing is, with how aggressive he is and how long his combos are, once you learn how to position yourself and like, obviously of course like when to dodge, your windows of punishment are huge. Like these days I could just kill Pontiff like it's nothing. I think I've done a soul level... It wasn't a soul level 1 playthrough, but it was a challenge run where I limited the amount of times I could level up. And even though he was a challenge, it made me learn him even more. It's just like, he's like, oh, I could punish him here, I could punish him here. And it's just like, as oppressive as he might be when you first fight him, when you really get him down, he's like, you can take down his health bar so fast. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's why I like Pontiff. His soundtrack, I don't know how people generally feel about his soundtrack. I really don't know, but I love it. Because his soundtrack sounds just as oppressive as he is the first time you fight him. And it's so fucking cool. I also love how you fight in a fucking church. The way he like slowly approaches you before just jumping at you, like out of nowhere. It's so fucking cool. I also like the way he holds his swords. But yeah, Pontiff, really cool boss. Nameless King. The only thing wrong with his boss is the first phase. Although I will say, I don't have as much camera trouble as other people seem to have. I've had some camera issues happen to me, but not as much as other people have. Nameless King is the same situation as Gale, where Fromsoft, they've had since Dark Souls 1 to hype up Gwyn's Firstborn, and they finally made it a boss fight, and this is also his first appearance, and he is, at the time of me fighting him, he was the toughest boss in Dark Souls 3. Also just like the most like impactful, because it's like, this is the guy, that was the, like when I beat him, I was like, that was the fucking Firstborn. I was like, holy shit. It was a really cool moment. I can't say I remember all of it, but you know, it was a good feeling. Soul of Cinder. I don't know, man. I definitely like him more than Manus. Okay, let's say him and Orphan are like equal. I always complain about Dark Souls 3 having too much fan service, but I think here they did it really tastefully with the way the soundtrack comes in with the Gwyn's piano and Gwyn's moveset. But outside of that, the first phase is just so fucking cool because he just uses everything that any player character has been able to do ever. So miracles, pyromancy, curved swords, spear, straight swords, all that stuff. It's just a really cool way to, you know, it's the last boss of the fucking series before Gale. It's just a really cool way to send it off. His arena is also really dope. Okay. This one. I'm biased as fuck. I'm always surprised that not a lot of people seem to like the Dragon Slayer armor in particular. Like, he's a good boss fight, but no one seems to like love him. So either he's attacking you or you're attacking him, or like you're dodging him, or like you're healing if you got hit or something. It feels like there's always something happening. Even though the fight is short. I just like, okay, a common occurrence is if there's a boss and it's a fair fight and there's always something happening to watch out for, like, okay, boss is swinging, okay, I need to heal, or I need to back up, or I need to dodge, I need to attack. I love boss fights like that. And Dragon Slayer armor, he's just like, he's all of that. I also like how impactful his attacks are. Like, you think it's obvious with like a giant axe and like a giant shield, but I feel like the more boss fights FromSoft makes, the more floaty the bosses get, like more anime. Dragon Slayer armor almost seems a little grounded with the way his like how much commitment he has in his attacks, in terms of just his like his wind ups and his recoveries. It all feels very like natural. I like that a lot. It makes the flow of the fight feel almost seamless, and it's why he's S+. Maybe like for lore, it's like, yeah, his lore is like whatever, in my opinion. Like his build up is like non-existent, but overall, just like in terms of just a straight up boss fight, he's very fun to fight against, and I always look forward to fighting him on all my Dark Souls 3 playthroughs. But yeah, that's Dark Souls 3 bosses, and right now Dark Souls 3 is dominating the S+ tier. It seems to overall be doing really well. Next up is Sekiro. I think this one's gonna take it. Man. Okay, so this is probably the hottest take I've ever had in my fucking life. True Corrupted Monk is my favorite boss of all time. You know, it's weird. A lot of people sleep on this boss. Whether it's because it's quote-unquote easy, or because she's just like whatever, or because it's like the second time fighting her. I don't know. It's just, for me, what built up the fight for me was she's one of the bosses shown in the trailer. The biggest impact on me, because of the way they showed her second phase with like her shadows coming in. And I was like, this boss looks so fucking cool. So I already had my expectations up, and she somehow managed to live up to them. Deflecting her attacks is satisfying. The way you can approach her phases, so when she drops down, you can get some sneaky little mortal blade hits in. Her second phase, you can death blow her if you really want to. I think that's cool. That's really cool. A lot of people say it trivializes the fight. Well, it's like, yeah, it does, but you don't have to do it. And also, I think it's a really cool detail that you can do it. Her third phase switches it up completely, where she just ignores it. She doesn't even try to deflect or block your attacks at that point. She just like goes full on like crazy mode, and I love that. And yet it still feels like a back and forth where like you still need to like watch out and like deflect her and stuff. And it's still very much like a posture game, I think. Is it? I'm not sure, but at the very least, it feels fun. Her soundtrack is one of my favorites. Like, I feel like her soundtrack is so slept on. It, her second phase that comes in during her second phase, of course. Even though a lot of people don't see it as very threatening, I think the soundtrack itself just, I love Japanese instruments and how like mystical they can sound, but also how like dark and eerie they can sound. In the case of Corrupted Monk, it's a mix of both. So when her second phase starts, you're like, what the fuck is happening? Or I was like, what the fuck is happening? But also in my case, I kind of knew what was happening because I saw the trailer. But it's still like the fog comes in, and it's just like, holy shit, she's gonna do something crazy, isn't she? And it was kind of crazy. Also, the aesthetic of like the shadows coming after you, I love that. That shit is everything to me. I'm an edge, like I love edgy shit like that. It's just like her shadows and shit. Her boss arena is one of my favorites in any game ever. It's like the bridge, like the maple leaves or whatever on it, looks super fucking cool. Anyways, yeah, I'm done gushing about the boss. I love the boss. I love everything about it. There's nothing I really hate about it. Next up, Owl. So, I really wanted to put Great Shinobi Owl on here because I like his soundtrack more, but overall, Owl Father is much more engaging because it's just like a constant like back and forth, and you want to be aggressive towards Owl Father because his posture recovers so fast. But yeah, Owl Father, he's the standard. I'm not gonna say he's the standard, but he's like, so Great Shinobi Owl took me a lot of tries to beat, and when I found out about this like hidden boss, Owl Father, I was just like, oh, it's gonna be Great Shinobi Owl again. I already know how to fight him. The first time I got to him, my mind was so confused by how fast he was moving. He killed me in like the first 10 seconds. Like I didn't even know what the fuck was happening. He was so fast, I was like, what the fuck is happening? But besides that, when you really get into his like the rhythm of his boss fight, it's so fun. You can get really like lost in it, and it's just so like, it's just great. It's also like an endurance test too. It's just like, you know, the fight can last like, with the way I play Sekiro, you know, charmless bell demon, base vitality. I hate to say it every time, but it's important to say like the way I play, because when I fight this guy, I like, it takes like 7 minutes or so. It's just like, just straight up, if I make more than one mistake, I'm fucked. For me, it's so exciting to fight him like that. I love it. Alright, next up, Divine Dragon. I like him more than Owl. Not by much. I think they're very close. Divine Dragon is a special case of a gimmick boss that Fromsoft not only does right, but they make it fucking spectacular. To this day, I think it's Fromsoft's best gimmick boss. The soundtrack, everyone talks about the soundtrack, but I can't overstate it enough. Every time I hear this part, I'm just like, wow, this is like some next level shit. Like, everything like looks so majestic. It's not difficult by any means, and that's why it's so good, honestly, because it's so easy to the point where you can just like look at the Divine Dragon and just be like, look at that. It's just like, it's beautiful, and you can focus on the soundtrack. You can focus on the graphics of the fight, or the visuals even, and the animation that plays for when Wolf or Sekiro does his last lightning return is probably the most noteworthy moment I've had in gaming. Still, like, it's so, the animation just hits, man. It's just so fucking nice. I love it. Ishin, another S tier. I will say, it's hard for me to decide if I like Owlfather or Ishin more. On one hand, Ishin feels like I can beat him faster, but Owl overall feels like way more engaging, in that you don't have to worry too much about him like just suddenly going to hyper armor mode and just like saying fuck you. Like, okay, so sometimes if you're too aggressive against Ishin, he will just like hyper armor through your attacks. Like, he'll do like his big combo, which I don't think is a bad thing, but for me, like, it's just like, if it came down to preference, I would just say I like Owl more. But Ishin is still just like, he tests everything about you. The first time I fought him, I thought he was bullshit. I could not get him down at all. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Why can't I like beat this guy? The only way I managed to beat him was by powering through him. And it took me until my first Charmless Bell Demon run to fully grasp his timings and the rhythm of the fight, and why I was like getting fucked so hard. And when I finally learned all of that, like with any other boss, it was so satisfying. But why Ishin is unique is because he's a special case where I thought the boss was genuinely too hard, but I just had to sit back and like maybe even relax and just say, you know, take the punishment, die however many times I need to die. I'll get the boss at some point. And that's exactly what happened. I ended up learning the boss, and now I can beat Ishin pretty easily. Yeah, he's a great boss. But the only thing is, I don't like his soundtrack. I think his soundtrack is really boring and forgettable. So he's definitely under Owl in that regard. I actually think his the Shura ending, Ishin, has a much better soundtrack. Although it wouldn't fit the Sword Saint, just for the sake of comparison, Ishin Ashina has a way better soundtrack. I think if the Sword Saint had a better soundtrack, I think maybe he would be above Owl, maybe. But yeah, that's Ishin. Next up, last Sekiro boss. Will it be an S+ tier? Yes, it will be. Genichiro, he's the gatekeeper of Sekiro, and I love him. He's not particularly hard, but he's not a pushover either. Fromsoft has like this weird perfect balance. It's so weird for me to think that Fromsoft landed a perfect balance with Genichiro, because that's what he's supposed to be. He is the boss where if you beat him, chances are you can beat the rest of the game. But if you can't beat him, you need to do some like self-reflection and think about why you can't beat him. Either that, or maybe Sekiro is just not the game for you. That's why I like him so much. And on top of that, he's just fun to fight. It's like a constant. I keep using this word. But it really is. It really is just like a back and forth. It's so engaging. He's always like on you. If you're not attacking him, he's attacking you, and it makes the fight way more difficult if you're not attacking him. So Genichiro, he exemplifies everything about Sekiro's combat. Whereas like if you're not the one attacking, not only are you making the game more difficult for yourself, but it's not nearly as fun. So yeah, Genichiro, S+ tier. He's also, in my opinion, I think he's a great character too. Yeah, I love his soundtrack. Oh, by the way, his soundtrack in the TGS trailer. Oh my, like, wow. When I watched the Sekiro trailer for the first time and I heard that soundtrack, I knew I was going to be in love with the game. I know a lot of people sleep on Sekiro's soundtrack, but I love it. I'm biased towards the instruments used. I'm biased towards, like, the sound of it. And it just hits me. It's beautiful in my opinion. But yeah, this guy, he's also the only kid that had a line in the trailer. There's a lot of build-up for Genichiro. Like, build-up, he has, like, ambitions. He's just a really great boss. I genuinely love the way he's like willing to do anything for Ashina. And I think he's a sympathetic character. He really is. But yeah, that's enough about me like gushing about Sekiro. Right now, if they fucking Gushiro. Right now, Sekiro has it for best bosses overall. So now it's Elden Ring time. Starting off with Margit. Margit is an amazing boss. I strongly remember sitting way past my bedtime because I had work the next day. But I was like, fuck this shit. I'm waking. I had a headache while I was playing, but I was too obsessed with beating him. I was just like, I wanted to beat this guy. First, let's go over the basics. I wanted to like, his delays, they can be like a little ridiculous, but I guess it's for the sake of like making like. Because if he didn't have that, how difficult would it really be? But besides that, his lore... I'd say after I beat the game, I had even more of an appreciation for Margit. He's my favorite character in Elden Ring, and also one of the best characters that Fromsoft has ever written. I think he looks cool as fuck. I love how his first phase is tough. For me, it was very tough. And you're like, how can the second phase get any harder? He starts pulling out like his holy weapons, like his the holy hammer and stuff. It's just like... In the music, it gets timed with like the way he like jumps up in the air, and it's just like, holy shit, this is like insane. But yeah, man, fucking Margit is something else. He's a cut above all the Elden Ring, every single one. He's way above every single Elden Ring boss. And speaking of Elden Ring bosses, Godric. I think that's a good spot for him. So I said Margit is like a cut above all the other bosses. Godric is really close. I do have some issues with him. This is a case where there are some things that I don't like about Godric, but everything else is so good that it just puts him in S+ anyway. It makes up for it. His tornado attack I think is like a little too hard to react to. It's a little too fast. Even if the damage is minimal, I don't like taking damage for no reason. Or I don't like taking damage that's like too hard to, avoid. So in Godric's case, I said Margaret was the best character in Elden Ring, but Godric is really close. Also, the voice actor fucking nails it. This is like Godric has the best voice actor in all of Fromsoft games, in my opinion. Wherever he is, that guy was on a mission, and he also has one of my favorite cutscenes of all time. Just seriously, the way he just cuts off his own armor and attaches a dragon head to it. I love it. But yeah, that's all I can really say about Godric. I'd say like overall, he's not exactly. I do like that. So first time I fought him, he was really overwhelming. But at some point, he was like Pontiff, where like once you learn him, you'll see that, oh, this guy really does, like, you know, you can punish him really heavily during certain moves. It's not as tough as it might seem the first time. Okay, Radahn. I can't say I like him more than Gascoigne or Dragon Slayer. I think it's a good spot for him. Radahn is another great character in Elden Ring. I love everything, but he had the proper build-up and all of that. Like, the only thing I don't like is I fought him pre-patch and I was getting absolutely obliterated. It was my fault because I went to kill it before the academy. Kind of my fault, but I was like, holy shit, this guy just one-shot me. But man, outside of that, my overall experience with him, it's like, yes, he's an S tier, obvious S tier. I don't summon for him. I like fighting him by myself. You know, that seems to be the gimmick that FromSoft was aiming for, but I personally prefer just fighting him one-on-one because it's very doable and it makes the fight a lot more fun. And he probably has the coolest second phase opener of all time, where he comes in as a fucking meteor and crashes into the fucking ground. It's that shit. When I first saw that, I was almost so hyped up that he almost killed me. I mean, he ended up killing me anyway, but in that moment, he could have just like obliterated me because I was not focused at all. But yeah, Star Scourge Radahn. What a great fucking boss. This guy. So, Hoarah. Godfrey, I like him a lot because he's the boss that really like brought back the quality during the end game of Elden Ring. Because a lot of the late game bosses are kind of like dog shit. Godfrey brings it back and he's like actually good. There's not much to say about Godfrey besides I like how it's a constant like, oh my god, I'm gonna say it again. It's a constant back and forth. Oh fuck, man. I have no other word. I'm not good with literature or vocabulary. But it genuinely is. It's just like there's always something happening. And he has one of the coolest like face changes ever. Honestly, it's the first time the way he kills you feels so different. Especially in his second phase. That's the first time I think FromSoft has ever done like a grappler type character. It just like fucks you over like that. I don't know. Godfrey is just a really fun fight. That's all I can say about it. It's really fun. Last boss on the list. Radagon. I said earlier, I'm not including Elden Beast. Radagon on his own is an A tier. With Elden Beast, he doesn't even make it on the list. But on his own, he's an A tier. Solid A tier. The reason why he's not S or S plus tier, because I feel like during his second phase, it's really up to RNG whether or not he teleports. And when he feels like being a bitch, he can really teleport a lot. And in my experience, that's what makes the fight difficult. It's like, how much is he gonna teleport? That's the real difficulty of the fight. But outside of that, it's a solid fight. The flow of the fight is just, once you get into it, it's just amazing. Like, I was at a point where I could just do him like no damage, unless he was teleporting a bunch. But if he wasn't, I would just do him no damage. And it was so satisfying to learn how to fight him like that. Yeah. That's the list. It's like overall, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, and Bloodborne dominated. I'd say it's a pretty good list.